All right, folks, we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. We've got Sanjiv Chopra back on the line today, truly a show favorite, one of my favorite people to interview in the world, and we've got a real doozy for you today. It's all about cancer, and Sanjiv, of course, brings some incredible knowledge and some stories that I know you're going to love. There's a little bit of connectivity issues with the phone. It seems like we always have a little bit of technical trouble with Sanjiv, but I left it all in because I don't want you to miss a word of what this guy says. So bear with me through the couple little hiccups. No big deal. The majority of the interview is fantastic. I know you're going to love it. Without further ado, thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in today. Before we get started, please share the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast with a friend, with a peer, with a colleague. I always appreciate you guys spreading the show. We have show favorite Dr. Sanjiv Chopra from Harvard Medical back on the line. How you doing, Dr. Chopra?
I'm doing great, Jordan. How are you?
Life is good, my friend. I'm always excited to talk to you. And today's subject is a very powerful one. Today we are talking about cancer. It's come up on the show before. It's always on the radar when it comes to coffee and disease prevention. But Sanjiv, I want you to enlighten us as to your take on the rise in cancer here in the Western world and how cancer works and everything.
Yeah, so Jordan, that's a great question. Cancer is not one disease. It's many different diseases. When we say somebody has type 2 diabetes, we know they have insulin resistance and we understand the pathophysiology. But every cancer is different. And even the same cancer looking identical under the microscope. So if somebody has a breast lump and they biopsy it and it says, okay, this is adenocarcinoma, this is intraductal carcinoma, it has a different unique molecular signature in different people. And
Wow.
that is what is leading us to the field of precision medicine, where different patients will be treated differently, even with the same kind of cancer. So fighting the battle or the war against cancer is a very daunting task for that very reason, because there's so many different molecular signatures in each cancer within the same category. Lung, colon, breast can be very, very different.
Wow.
What we're seeing now is an increase in cancer. And one of the major reasons we think is A, people are living longer. B, we are controlling mortality from heart disease, by controlling hypertension, by having people quit smoking, by using statins, which are the biggest blockbuster, multi-billion-dollar drugs that lower cholesterol, lower the bad cholesterol, increase the good cholesterol, and decrease the risk of heart attack and stroke. So we're living longer, we're dying less from heart disease. And then we are in the midst of a burgeoning epidemic of obesity. Obesity is linked to many, many different cancers. And people who have obesity and the same cancer, let's say a woman has breast cancer and obesity, she will do less well compared to somebody her age with the same breast cancer who's not obese.
Has a higher fatality rate if you're
just
overweight.
higher mortality rate, if you're obese. And we are also recognizing now that people with breast cancer, once they've been treated, if they exercise, have low recurrence. So it all seems to be connected. What can we do to prevent cancer? Eat healthy, eat the right foods, don't get overweight. There are 2 vaccines that are anti-cancer vaccines. The first one is the hepatitis B virus vaccine. Seminal studies done almost 40 years ago now in Taiwan, where the prevalence of chronic hepatitis B virus infection was 15 to 20% of the entire population had chronic hepatitis B virus infection.
Wow.
And they started childhood vaccination. And within 20 years, 2 decades, it dropped from 15 to 20% to 1.5% in the country. And childhood liver cancer. So liver cancer was killing children, not only adults, but children. Dropped. Mortality from that, childhood liver cancer mortality dropped by an astounding 75%. So that's truly the first anti-cancer vaccine, hepatitis B vaccine,
How does that? Why is that effective against cancers? Do you know how that works?
because it prevents hepatitis B.
Hmm.
And the hepatitis B virus is oncogenic. It's a cancer-producing virus,
Oh, wow.
not only in the liver but other organs as well. The second anti-cancer vaccine is the HPV, human papilloma virus
Right. I've heard this too.
vaccine, right? So that prevents cervical cancer and can prevent throat cancer, anal cancer, and it's a recommendation now for young people to get the vaccine. So lifestyle changes, avoiding obesity, eating the right foods, exercise, taking those two particular vaccines if indicated, which are pretty much indicated, will cause a decrease in cancer.
Mm,
But
that's
the other
interesting.
thing that we can do is drink coffee. And as a liver expert, a hepatologist, I got intrigued about this when the studies started coming out almost 2 decades ago that people who drink coffee, it seems to protect the liver. They have low levels of liver enzymes, high levels are indicative of liver damage.
Mm.
Next study, they have less scarring of the liver. If there's a lot of scarring, it's called cirrhosis. Next study, 50% reduction in hospitalization and mortality from chronic liver disease. We now estimate 1.5 billion people in the world have chronic liver disease. 50% reduction by
Jeez.
drinking 2 cups of regular coffee a day.
Jeez.
And then studies showing that low risk of liver cancer mortality, multiple studies, 2 cups as low as 40%. And primary cancer of the liver, which means cancer arising in the liver, not in the lung, not in the breast, not in the colon, and going to the liver, that's metastatic disease. Primary cancer of the liver is the third leading cause of cancer mortality in the world.
Mm.
And in about 10 countries, including Egypt and Mongolia, it's the number one cause of cancer death. So low reduction in liver cancer mortality. And now it turns out 6 other common cancers: head and neck cancer, breast cancer, endometrial cancer, skin cancer, colon cancer, and metastatic prostate cancer. So, prostate cancer, a lot of people will die in their 70s, 80s, 90s with prostate cancer,
Right.
not off. It stays in the prostate, doesn't spread to the bones and kill the person. Metastatic means it's spread. 50% reduction in metastatic prostate cancer with 2 cups of regular coffee a day.
Jeez.
And some of the cancers, it's an 8% reduction, 10% reduction, some it's 30%, some it's 40%, some it's 50%. But 7 different cancers, it's really uncanny.
It's a
Skin
significant
cancer
reduction.
also,
Wow.
significant reduction. And there seems to be a dose dependent effect.
So there's something
So
going
if you
on there
drink
biologically.
more,
Hmm.
yeah, something clearly biological, something clearly mechanistic. Now the mechanism we don't know. Coffee lowers the risk of lowers the not the risk but lowers the blood levels of something called CRP, C-reactive protein.
Hmm.
That's a marker of inflammation.
Right.
When you go and see your primary care doctor at a certain age and you're at risk for heart disease and stroke, they actually measure a blood test called CRP. And if it's high, you're at risk for getting stroke, heart attacks, inflammation, and so on. And we're often put on a medication called a statin, Lipitor, Mevacor, Crestor, all of these blockbuster, amazing medications. Coffee drinkers have low levels of CRP.
Hmm.
We now think that inflammation plays a major part, not only in infections and inflammatory diseases, but also in cancer,
Hmm.
also in atherosclerosis. There's also a very interesting phenomenon called angiogenesis. So if somebody has a tumor in the colon, they have a cancer in the colon, and then it spreads to the liver. Well, how's it going to continue to grow in the liver? What it does, these cancer cells form the unique scaffolding of blood vessels to nourish the tumor and have it grow.
Whoa.
This phenomenon is called angiogenesis.
Wow.
Angiogenesis, the genesis of new blood vessels.
Hmm.
And we had an amazing, brilliant physician at Children's Hospital at Harvard Medical School. I knew him very well, Dr. Judah Folkman, a true giant in medicine. He spawned that field.
Mm.
And when he first spawned it, people sort of almost ridiculed it.
Wow.
And some years ago, there would be 10,000, 15,000 articles in the scientific literature each year on angiogenesis. It has implications in benign disease, but also malignant disease, cancer. And he was such a giant that I actually nominated him for the Nobel Prize in Medicine or Physiology.
Wow.
And he clearly would have gotten it. Unfortunately, he died suddenly of a heart attack. And in the history of the Nobel Prize, they have virtually never given it posthumously.
Wow.
So, but he spawned the field. I saw, I attended lectures by him of people with horrific face cancer that were failing chemotherapy, radiation therapy. He put them on a pill that put the brakes on the angiogenesis. The cancer disappeared. The person became beautiful again. Physicians in the audience would have tears in their eyes.
That's
So it
wild.
turns
What a
out
story. Thank you for sharing that, Sanjiv.
coffee has a constituent called carviol, and it is anti-angiogenic.
Mm.
So we still don't understand the real mechanism of coffee and cancer protection. But if I had to speculate, I would say it's on the basis of anti-inflammatory, because of anti-angiogenesis. At autopsy, studies have shown that a lot of people have cancer in their prostate, in their thyroid, in their colon, and other organs, but they lived to 80 or 90, and
Hmm.
it never spread. It was a good size. So maybe they had anti-angiogenesis mechanisms.
So the
Maybe they were
cancer was there,
drinking,
but it wasn't
was
spreading.
there, but wasn't spreading. Maybe they were drinking coffee. That would be an interesting study to look at autopsy prevalence of cancer and then look at their social history. Did they smoke? Did they drink alcohol? Did they drink coffee? How many cups? Did they drink tea? Did they take vitamin D? And those studies are there for some young, bright person to look at. Look at.
That's incredible, Sanji. And it's wild because, like you said, if all these cancers are totally different, none of them are
Yeah,
alike, but coffee can cover all of these different.
at least
Clearly, there's
seven
an.
of them. At least seven of them, and
Yeah,
seven common ones.
clearly there's some sort of like common thread, some sort of mechanism,
Yeah,
like you said. Maybe it's the inflammation, maybe it's this angiogenesis.
yeah.
It's wild. That's absolutely wild. What do you think has to do with strengthening the immune system? My understanding is that cancer cells are created all the time, but our body kind of sniffs them out and destroys them. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. And in fact, years ago, I developed a talk and I called it the top stories in medicine in the last century. A lot of the discoveries in medicine was serendipity, the discovery of penicillin and hepatitis B. So it makes for fascinating storytelling. But then I reached out to all the division chiefs in the Department of Medicine. So a Department of Medicine will have different divisions:
Hmm.
cardiology, gastroenterology, hepatology, nephrology, pulmonary, critical care medicine, rheumatology, infectious disease, hematology, and so on. And I reached out to the chiefs of those divisions, world famous, renowned professors at Harvard Medical School. And I said, I'm also in this talk that I'm going to give, predict what's going to be happening in the next 50 years. And here are six or eight things I'm going to say. I'd like you to add in your particular discipline what you think will be the singular advance in your field in the next 25 to 50 years.
Wow.
And I got some amazing answers, absolutely, because these guys are so brilliant. And one of them, Dr. Lowell Schnipper, he happens to be a very good friend and colleague. We have traveled to Mexico, to Argentina, to Japan, uh, many places, Kuwait, Singapore, to teach medicine.
Oh, it's
I've
awesome.
been I've been fortunate to be the course director, and When I pick the faculty, I pick people like Dr. Lowell Schnipper, who's brilliant. So when I asked him what would happen in the field of oncology, and this is about almost 8, 10 years ago, he said, Sanjiv, 50% of cancer will be cured by immunotherapy. We'll give the person a pill. It will boost their own immune system, and the immune system will go off and knock
Wow.
the cancer cells. And, if you think about it, it's already, by the way, happening. There are some cancers, including some leukemias, that we treat with immunotherapy. People with pancreatic cancer, stage 4, would live 3 or 5 months. I know of patients who are alive 3 years, 4 years out with pancreatic cancer, end stage on immunotherapy. It
Wow.
is really remarkable. And not only is it uh, remarkably efficacious, and we'll discover many other forms of immunotherapy. The major pharmaceutical companies has developed special departments called immuno-oncology, where all the scientists in that particular pharmaceutical company division are just working on immunotherapy. And we will
Wow.
look back and, in a very short period of time and say, oh my God, how barbaric were we when we were
Right.
treating people with radiation,
Right.
making them sick, lose their hair, throw up, treating them with chemotherapy, knocking off their white cells, their red cells, making them anemic, give them blood transfusions, knocking their white cells down, getting sepsis, infections, even dying from infections. But that's what we have had,
Exactly. I was just gonna say, isn't it wild? I,
So,
I don't. I don't mean to laugh, but it's
yeah, but that's
absurd
the,
and fascinating that these breakthroughs, these incredible miracles of science. You're right. We're
yeah.
gonna look back on them and say how barbaric.
But we had no choice. That's all we had.
Right.
I mean, when it first started, we had stuff like nitrogen mustard, that we used to use. And there's a fascinating book written by a brilliant author. He trained at Harvard. His name is Siddharth Mukherjee. He trained in oncology at Harvard. He's now in New York faculty. And he wanted to create a blog on cancer. And then he started writing it, and then it became a book. And it's called The Emperor's Malady.
Hmm.
The Emperor's Malady, a biography of cancer by Siddharth Mukherjee. First book, he wins the Pulitzer Prize.
Wow.
He's going to be giving a keynote at a conference I'll be chairing this December in Boston. So brilliant, but he talks from historical perspective to this book came out about 2 years ago. I'm sure there'll be future editions with more, advances incorporated.
Great resource.
Fascinating.
Okay. Good resource recommendation. The
Yeah.
Emperor's Malady.
A biography of cancer.
Wow.
Siddharth Mukherjee.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Before we sign off, let me ask you this. You talk about, it makes perfect sense when you talk about how we extend our lives, we solve some of the major mortal health issues that we're going to run into new health challenges. Do you think that the increase in cancer has anything to do with environmental stuff? I mean, I know health conscious people such as myself can drive ourselves a little bit crazy with, things like BPAs, like trying to stay away from plastics or stay away from this or that.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely very, very, very well known potent carcinogens. There are molds, there are fungal molds, there's something called aflatoxin, which contaminates corn and nuts in certain parts of the world, where also hepatitis B is common. But if they have both hepatitis B, a virus, and an environmental carcinogen like aflatoxin, oh my God, their chance of getting liver cancer and dying young is phenomenal,
So it's
monumental.
compounding of the issues.
So
That's
it's
the real problem.
compounding. Yeah, but there are other proven carcinogens as well. You don't have to have a virus or something else. And there are a lot of toxins. And my one concern is when patients of mine come to me, and I always, every single visit, will ask them, so you're taking this medicine, this medicine, this medicine. Yeah, those three. What else? Nothing. Are you taking any vitamins? Are you taking any supplements? Are you taking any minerals? Are you taking any laxatives? Are you taking any herbal compounds? Are you taking any Chinese compounds? Are you taking any Indian Ayurvedic medicine? Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I take
that.
this. Yeah. But Dr. Chopra, those are natural, right? It may not help me, but it won't hurt me, right? And I said, how much are you paying for this? And one time I was doing an interview on radio when one of my books had come out, Medical Facts and Myths Everyone Should Know, Dr. Chopra says. This guy called in. He said, I'm on my way to name the famous vitamin store. And I buy this. I said, how much does it cost you? He said, oh, about $260 a month. I said, wow, that's a fair amount of money. I mean, that's $3,000 a year. And there's no proof that any of it helps. The only vitamin I would recommend you take is vitamin D3, the sunshine vitamin.
Right, which we all
He
need.
said, really? Yeah. So I said, you know what I call it? He said, what? I said, a wallet biopsy, a walletectomy. So he said, Dr. Chopra, thank you. I'm turning the car around. I'm going home. And then I said to him, when he said part of nature, I said, you heard of cobra venom? You heard of tsunami? You heard of earthquakes? You heard
Not
of
good for your
lightning? They're all part of nature. They can pack a wallop.
Oh,
So
man,
let's not fool ourselves into thinking just because it's part of nature, it's safe.
Well, if people want to follow up on that, you have a great section on supplements in The Big Five, right? Your great book. I always recommend The Big Five.
Yeah. They can go to my website, sanjivchopra.com. A lot of my talks, TED Talks, books, a lot of it is out there.
Perfect. SanjivChopra.com. Yeah. Sanjiv, I appreciate you so much coming on the show. You're
most welcome.
You're great because you're a fountain of wisdom, but then you also have these great stories and you bring up other doctors and like give them recognition. It's really great. I really appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care of yourself, Sanjiv.
Blessings.
Take care.
Bye.
Oh, man, I love talking to that guy. What an incredible human being. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You know what to do. Share the show with a friend. SanjivChopra.com. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast for more Sanjiv. Give us a good rating and review. Sure appreciate that. All right, folks, that's all for today. I hope you have an extraordinary day out there. We'll see you next time on the Coffee, Health, and Science Podcast.